No matter how I look at it, he seemed to have gone mad. Guchil gazed seriously down at Chung Myeong. Did all that beating drive him mad? He got hit a little harder than usual. Although Wang Cho was usually a little excessive, he'd beaten Chung Myeong like he was trying to teach him a lesson. Even getting attacked by a dog wouldn't mess him up this bad. The people who normally tried to stop him didn't even bother today, seeing how Wang Cho had absolutely manhandled Chung Myeong. Guchil wasn't surprised. So what you're saying is, I'm a beggar? Was he beaten on his head or his body? A beggar asking if he was a beggar? What madness is this? Guchil was certain. This guy had turned weird. No, he had turned horrifyingly weird. He normally slacked off, so Guchil knew that one day he was going to get a real beating. It was just bad luck that today was the day. That was the iron rule of the Beggars' Union. If you don't find food with your own hands, you either die a dog's death, starve to death, or get beaten. Normally, people would come back to their senses after their beating. Normally. Instead, the complete opposite was happening in front of Guchil. Is it true? Am I really living in a place like this? It can't be true. Are you blind or what? Huh? It shouldn't be hard to figure it out by looking at what you're wearing. Chung Myeong lowered his eyes. He saw all kinds of fabrics and rags. It should have been normal clothing, but they were rags. Any normal person would nod their head and go back to work, but not Chung Myeong. Don't I have a name or something? Since when did beggars have names? Guchil heaved a sigh. Just a crude one. You're Cho-sam. Sounds like a beggar's name. Look, even the name was poor. To be a beggar, this kind of beggar. The other beggar stared blankly at him. And age? Am I around 16? Since when did beggars keep track of their age? That makes sense. Unlike everything else, everything about Cho-sam had changed, from the way he spoke to the way he moved. On top of that, he had no idea what was happening around him. It was far too much to be caused by concussion. Then what year is it? Beggars count the days. You ever seen a beggar who counted the years? Sounds like a true beggar. Guchil rubbed his eyes. A beggar's life was always tired and stressful, but this was so much worse than usual. Then let me ask you a question. You've been asking for a while now. Do you know who the heavenly demon is? You were mumbling about the heavenly demon earlier too. Why are you suddenly looking for him? Answer me first. Of course I know him. Everyone knows. He was the great demon leader of the heavenly demon sect who was defeated 100 years ago. What? The great demonic... Cho-sam shot forward and grabbed Guchil by the collar. 100 years have passed since the heavenly demon was slain? 100 years? Does that really mean a century has passed since then? A century? That's right. Seems like Cho-sam got hit real hard. Tell me the truth. Don't even think about lying. What good would come out of lying to you? Guchil pulled Cho-sam off of him. Soon, Cho-sam's freed hands were scratching furiously at his head. He's gone mad. There was no other explanation after seeing that. He wasn't confused or rattled by the beating. He just lost his mind. Guchil had never seen someone's face express so many shades of shock. 100 years, you say? Do you want me to say it again? I need to head back. Chung Myeong raised his head to the sky. He thought that seeing the clean blue sky would offer him some kind of comfort, but all he could see was the black ceiling of the tent. It was as dark as Chung Myeong's mood. 100 years have passed since then. Guchil snapped. It's not like you're old or something, so why do you keep repeating the same thing? It's been 100 years. The sects had a big fight with the heavenly demon on top of the 100,000 mountains and took his head off, right? It was 100 years ago. I get it. That was why he was so depressed. The guy who thrashed Chung Myeong earlier seemed like he was high-ranked. In that sense, the guy in front of him now could also be higher ranked than Cho-sam. In the Beggars' Union, was he? Unfortunately, it wasn't anything great. It was practically impossible for the Beggars' Union to feed and shelter all of their people. It was said that the union took in all beggars, but their funds were limited. Most of the beggars' union were plain street beggars. The higher-ups gave them numbers for names, and their clothes had no knots. Roaming on the streets, these beggars would have a better idea of what happened in the world of martial arts than any practitioner. Gu Chil's words were reliable. Crazy. 100 years, huh? Everything would have changed. Now, it was just a matter of accepting he'd been reincarnated into the body of another child. Why couldn't I have just been reborn right after my death? After 100 years, everyone who knew Chung Myeong must be dead. That aside, all the people he'd known died on top of the horrible mountain. He was all alone. No matter how twisted things can get, this is just too much. Then the Mount Hua... Aha! Hold on! The Mount Hua Sect? When Cho-sam hopped up from the floor and started shouting at him, Gu Chil wasn't even surprised anymore. The Mount Hua Sect! What happened to the Mount Hua Sect? What do you mean? What happened to Mount Hua? Mount Hua? Yes. What's Mount Hua? Huh? Chung Myeong boggled at him. He didn't know Mount Hua? A beggar didn't know? Come on, don't play with me. What's the current situation of the Mount Hua Sect? Mount Hua Sect? Gu Chil tilted his head. He really didn't know. Really? About Mount Hua? The one of the Great 9 sects. Mount Hua Sect. You don't know about it? Huh, you... One of the Great 9 sects? What nonsense are you spouting? There is no Mount Hua in the Great 9 sects. There isn't? Shaolin, Wudang, Zhongnam, Dianchang, Gongtong, Qingcheng, Emei, Hainan, Kunlun, and the Beggars' Union. There are 10 now. Hainan? Those good-for-nothing bastards are in the 10 great sects? No, that doesn't matter. Then Mount Hua isn't one of them? Gu Chil sighed. Cho-sam only heard what he wanted to, no matter what he said. Gu Chil's patience was wearing thin. Mount Hua Sect isn't part of the great sects? No, that could be possible. But you don't know Mount Hua? Even when a rich man becomes poor, he can last for 3 years with his luxuries. But you, a mere beggar, don't know about the Great Mount Hua Sect? Calling him a beggar didn't really capture the consequences of what he said. Well, he could starve to death. Does that make any sense? Chung Myeong shook Gu Chil by the shoulders. Any sense at all? You really don't know Mount Hua? Mount Hua! Mount Hua Sect! Mount Hua! Gu Chil could feel a headache setting in. Right! Mount Hua! Come to think of it, Gu Chil tilted his head. I remember hearing there was such a sect in the Shaanxi province. Yes, that's right! Mount Hua in Shanxi! Chung Myeong's eyes were wide. From what I know, they're in ruins. What? Chung Myeong's heart stopped. I don't know if there was a Mount Hua sect in the Great Sects or not, but I heard stories about how their elite warriors were killed in the war with the Heavenly Demon. I don't know for sure. If you want to know more, ask the others. What did that mean? Mount Hua sect has fallen? Mount Hua? The Mount Hua sect? This beggar, feeding me lies! Gu Chil turned his gaze upwards. Even when he told the truth, Chung Myeong just cursed him. This was why Gu Chil hated helping people. No, not a chance. I can't believe that. Chung Myeong shoved Gu Chil away and jumped to his feet. I need to go and see for myself. Ha! Gu Chil shouted at his back. If you don't come back by dinner in the evening, Wang Cho will kill you for real this time. Don't waste your time with needless things and get back to work. But Cho-sam left. What is that bastard going to do now? Gu Chil shook his head, absolutely baffled by the change in his behavior. Huh? Was this the face of a merchant who had lost his entire fortune? That was certainly what Chung Myeong's face looked like. When he thought about it, with all the disciples of Mount Hua killed in the battle with the Heavenly Demon, a decline in power was inevitable. During that time, they could have been pushed out of the great sects. But no matter how hard he racked his brains, how could Mount Hua be pushed out and the Beggars' Union come into the great sects in just 100 years? How did that make sense? How could beggars who knew nothing of martial arts be included? Somehow, the beggar he talked to didn't know. So Chung Myeong went asking, but no matter who he grabbed, the results were the same. Mount Hua. Are you talking about the mountains over there? What about it?
Mount Hua Sect. Did Mount Hua have a martial arts school?
I've never heard of such a sect.
How dare a beggar touch my sleeve? Do you want your arms cut off? Let go of my sleeves this instant.
Forget the last one. No one knew, not a single one. This makes no sense. How did the Mount Hua sect turn out this way? There would always be numerous famous sects, but none would be as renowned as Mount Hua. It would be a bit of an exaggeration to say that all of the most famous swordsmen come from Mount Hua. Still, no one would disagree that Mount Hua was one of the three most famous, along with Udang and Namgung. But people didn't know it existed? There was one positive response at least. Mount Hua sect. I think I've heard of it. Weren't they famous in the past? From what I heard, they slew the heavenly demon and then collapsed. Are they still there?
Collapsed? The Mount Hua sect? What kind of bullshit was he spouting? It would be more realistic to say that the imperial palace burned down and the emperor fled. The Mount Hua sect has fallen? Mount Hua? Maybe I should be glad it's me who was resurrected.
Chung Myeong recalled the strange expression Chang Mun-sa-hyung wore in his last moments.
If he were alive to hear the news, he would have vomited blood and died again. No, no.
Chung Myeong leapt from his seat.
I need to see it with my own eyes.
The Mount Hua sect had existed for hundreds of years. No matter how horrible a state it was in, he had to see it. I'm going to Mount Hua. His blue eyes blazed with passion. This was the moment the butterfly's wings birthed a tidal wave.